Hey everyone, Wink here from the Shadow Podcast. Mods 2.0 has arrived and we have mod slicing. So this video is going to be about entirely mod slicing, what mods you should be looking at to slice, which ones should take priority, and all that sort of stuff. I'm going to dig into it and talk about the price and what's most efficient and all that stuff. So let's get into it. All right. So the first thing is mod battles. That is where you get your slice material. That is a spot that nobody really used before. Once you beat the mod battles previously, that was pretty much it. But they added a ninth stage to the mod battles, and this is where you get the mod slicing material. And as you'll see on the screen, as I go through these, I'm going to circle the ones I'm talking about. And we're going to start off with gray mods. So if you want to slice a mod that is gray, and I guess before I go too far, I should say that slicing, when we're talking about slicing, like a gray, a green, a blue, or a purple mod, it is just like before whenever you would level a mod up to like a gold mod leveling to 3, 6, 9, or 12. All you're doing is proccing a secondary stat. That's it. So each one has a 25% chance because there's 4 of them. So you're better off slicing mods that have multiple secondary stats that you really like. That way you're much less likely to be disappointed if, say speed doesn't go up as you wish it would. So with these gray mods, they require 10 slicing material. And on this mod battle screen, you can actually see how they're laid out and the ones that are required. So for a gray, it's only 10 pieces of the very first one. That is all you need. And that equals out based on the drop rate that I've got. I've done hundreds of battles, and it seems to be about 120% drop rate. And that is because in one particular battle, you have the opportunity to get 3 pieces. So you could get 0, 1, 2, or 3. Those are the possible combinations that you can get. And it appears to have about 120% drop rate. As we get more data, that could change. But with the data that I've got so far, that's about where it's at. So that equals approximately 42 crystals based on the 50 crystal energy refreshes. I'm kind of ignoring the free ones just because we kind of need to put a price to things just so we have a perspective on it. It's about 42 crystals to upgrade a gray mod to a green mod. Now, let's go ahead and go to green mods. Green mods, they require a total of 20 salvage pieces. So the slice cost on them is about 84 crystals to slice a green mod into a blue mod. It uses the piece that's also used in the gray and also the next piece on the following node as you see highlighted on the screen. Now as we move into the next ones, which is the blue mods. So blue mods are kind of interesting. I have a lot of blue mods because, if you've been listening to our podcast and taking advice from a lot of other people in the community, you know that before you had you actually had a higher chance of getting, secondary stats to proc by getting blue mods and leveling them up and taking advantage of the increased chances of those stats proccing in the beginning. So primarily the mods that I have been slicing have been blue mods. I've probably sliced 3 or 4 of them and had pretty good luck with it. The other thing is, efficiency wise, they're pretty cost effective. You may have a pretty good number of these blue mods that already have good secondary stats that you like. If you have mid-teens in the speeds on your blue mods, they're great candidates to mod slice just because slicing them is cheaper than slicing a purple, and you have the same chance of increasing your secondary speed that you want. So it's approximately 146 crystals to slice a blue mod, and so that's basically 1 day's worth of refreshes to slice one blue mod, if that's how you're spending your crystals. It requires 35 salvage, one of the pieces from the green and the piece following the next node. As you will start to see, there is obviously a pattern with the way these are laid out. Then we go into the purple mods, which requires a total of 50 salvage pieces, and that equals approximately 209 crystals to take a purple mod to a gold mod. And like I said, it's the 15 of the pieces that were used on the blue mod in combination with 35 of the salvage that's on that next node. And that next node, it is only used for purple mods to get to gold. There is no overlap like there have been with these last two. Because as we keep going on the, the mod battle node chart, we get to the last two, and the last two, instead of being 12 energy each, they're 14 energy, which changes the math on it a little bit. They're a little bit less efficient, obviously, so that's going to increase the cost. And in order to slice a gold mod up to a 6E mod, it requires 50 of each, so 100 total salvage. Now, the cost to get that salvage is approximately 486 crystals based on that 120% drop rate. So that's pretty pricey. And that is just on that salvage. That's not even including the 20 of the gold salvage that you need to splice up a mod. Or you can also get those, instead of spending 1,500 crystals in the weekly store for those 20 gold pieces, what you can actually do is spend 3,000 guild store currency and get them from the guild store. You just kind of have to wait on refreshes. You can't buy them all in one lump sum. But that is a really good way to get them as you kind of go forward. All right, so the next thing I kind of want to get into are the actual stats themselves, what you should be looking for primarily. And the main thing that I look at whenever I'm slicing, say, blue mods or anything like, it's secondary stats. Secondary stats are the big important thing. I know people are excited about the 6E mods, but I don't think you need to worry about those quite yet. You can get a lot better a return on your investment by slicing up your blue and purple mods and getting better secondary stats there, rather than actually trying to slice your gold mods up to make those better, because some of those have pretty good return on investment. Others, is not so much. It kind of depends. And we'll talk about the primary stats here in a second, but first I want to dig into the secondary stats. So I'm using the same color reference that you're used to. The two that I highlighted here is the offense percentage, which gets tripled whenever you slice a 5-dot mod to a 6-dot mod. That is a significant increase. And the other secondary stat that I would primarily look at when slicing a 5-dot mod to a 6-dot mod would be speed. I think this also carries over to just deciding what mods you want to slice, like if it's a blue or purple mod, because these secondary stats are very important. They're really good. And you get the added benefit of, once it gets to a gold mod, it's a really good candidate to get promoted to being 6-dot. So speed is 3%. It rounds, so you basically get one more additional speed by slicing a mod. And we'll get to something interesting with the primary stats here in a minute. But those are the two top secondary stats that I am looking for whenever slicing a mod from 5 to 6-dot. The second tier of secondary stats that I care about is health percentage and the flat defense. So flat defense got a nice increase, but it was already a pretty good stat, especially for, tankier characters like your Scion or Sith Trooper or General Kenobi, especially those characters that have that stacking defense or bonus defense or defense up or anything of the sort. And then health percentage, it's not quite doubled, but it's pretty close. And health percentage is really good because, one, you can recover health. Two, protection up is based on your health percentage. So if you get a protection up bonus, that is actually based on the health of the character, not the protection of the character. And so characters like Wampa, they get the additional counter chance and the additional, the 50% offense, basically gets offense up whenever he has protection up. You want him to have a large health pool so that he keeps that. Like in the phase 2 team that I've done, which you can find here on our YouTube channel, that's the main reason why I want to stack so much health on him, is because it actually adds offense. And then you have characters, that health steal, or Darcion that heals himself, or if you're using like a Treya lead where they're recovering 10% health. I mean, the more you're recovering, the better. Just makes them that much more difficult to kill. So that's a secondary stat that I really like. Now let's move on to... I'm going to focus here on ones that I don't really care for. And I shouldn't say don't really care for, but they're going to be no factor in determining if I slice a mod from 5 dot to 6 dot. These aren't even taken into consideration. And that is flat protection, offense flat, and critical chance. I love flat offense as a secondary stat, but it has no bearing on whether I am going to slice a mod to 6 dot. And that is primarily because the offense percent just adds so much more. But 10%, I mean, like an unbelievable secondary stat for damage is like, 200. I think the best I actually have is 180. So I'll get an additional 18 offense off of that. That's just not going to be that big of a factor in, slicing up a mod. I'm not going to care that much about that. So let's go ahead and move on to the thing that I'm sure people are very concerned about, and that is the primary stats. This is where a lot of the balancing takes place. So they redid the mod set bonuses, as you know, and I'm going to have another video coming out here pretty soon this week about mod sets, because there's something really interesting that I think needs to be discussed about what they did with the mod sets. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. That way you get alerted whenever we have a new video come out. Primary stats. The three that I circled here that I think are absolutely awesome. These are the three that I focus on slicing up. If it's something besides these three, I don't really care at this point. I will later down the road, but not here in the beginning. And that is health percentage, critical damage, and offense percent. Now, offense percent gets a pretty nice bonus. The critical damage, it's increased by 6%. They're pretty close. I do think I actually lean offense percent as being a better slice than crit damage. You'll see a little note down at the bottom of the screen. On a critical hit, you'll do 0.7% more damage if you decided to slice a critical damage triangle rather than a offense square. So if you're like over, multiple attacks, if you even get one that doesn't land as a crit, you're losing damage. And that's the reason why I think you're better off to do a square rather than a crit damage, unless you're talking about like Resistance Trooper. If you're doing it strictly for like Asajj, Resistance Trooper, or characters that almost have those guaranteed crits because their crit chance is so high, then sure, by all means, do the crit damage. But all in all, you're better off just going with the offense percent, because they're pretty close. Like I said, 0.7% is not a whole lot more damage. And whenever you don't crit, you're doing more damage. So, every time you don't crit, you're just getting more and more ahead of it had you done the crit damage triangle. So health percentage though, that is my favorite one. That's gonna be I actually on my main account I haven't even sliced a mod to 6 dot yet, but I have on test account, and that's kind of the video that you're seeing in the background that you're able to watch. And health goes from 5.88% to 16%. That is significant. It's huge. And the reason I like it so much is because there's so many characters that have health still, and like I spoke about earlier, is the protection up. The protection up being based on the health is huge, and so whenever you're talking about, I mean that the amount that it's increasing is over 10%. That's more than the new set bonus offers just by slicing a health primary mod up. So I think health primary mods should be the first thing that people are looking at, especially if they use some of those protection up based characters or characters that have high health steal or anything of the sort. Nest is another one. Like I said, health steal, the protection up, going to be very difficult if she has multiple health percentages on there. And also, if you're trying to complete the raids, for the raid, these three are also probably the best ones because it's all about the amount of damage that you do and survivability. For example, Darth Nihilus in phase 1 of the raid, where he only damages your health. The bigger health pool you have, the longer you'll last. That's incredibly beneficial, but also just being able to do more damage per attack is really important. So that's why those three are far and away the top three that you should be looking at whenever you're trying to figure out what mod you want to slice from 5 to 6 dot. So let's go look at that next tier. So the next tier I have two, and that is defense percentage and tenacity. Tenacity, I think, is very underrated. I know there are a lot of characters that do debuffs that can't be resisted. However, I have like 140% tenacity on my Darth Nihilus, and it is really nice whenever he doesn't get debuff in the beginning and gets cooldowns increased. It can make a significant difference. And going against characters like Nest that remove turn meter, you're not getting that turn meter removed. And part of the reason why I have tenacity and not potency is because they have actually, with redoing in mods 2.0, tenacity has an advantage over potency in that they're not equal anymore. Their set bonuses and their primary stats used to be equal, and they're not anymore. They favor tenacity. They favor people who want to try to get an advantage for preventing the debuffs from landing on your character. So I think that's a really good thing that you could try and take advantage of. I mean, it adds 11% by taking one of those mods up. So if you have a mod that you already kind of use its tenacity primary bonus, that could be a really good mod to go ahead and work up. The other one is defense percentage, and the primary reason is because every character has a defense percentage primary stat, obviously with the diamond, and it gets a pretty significant boost, especially on tanks. It's going to be a lot more beneficial since it's percentage. So those are the two in tier 2. Now, whenever we look at the next tier, I have potency and crit chance. Crit chance goes from 12% to 20%, and that's a pretty nice bonus, especially when we're considering characters that remove your crit chance, like Treya, for example. Her leader ability can be very frustrating to deal with. And potency, obviously, to counter the advantage that tenacity has, I think potency will start to become a little bit more common, because I can definitely see, especially with the set bonuses, more people starting to use tenacity to prevent characters like Ness from just being a royal pain and frustration. All right, so this is going to be controversial, and I know that. So go ahead and give me your bad feedback down there in the comments. Go for it. Speed. Speed I have as a lower tier consideration for slicing from 5 to 6 dot. It adds 2 speed. If you would just choose to do a mod with secondary speed, if you would slice one of those instead of a speed arrow, you'll gain 1 speed rather than gaining 2 speed. So it's a 1 speed difference, but you're also getting a significant bonus on the other primary stats if you're choosing something like health percentage, crit damage, or offense. I think all those should be done way before you do a speed primary. And the first arrow that I take to 6 dot is not even going to be a speed arrow. It's going to be an offense primary arrow, just because there's so many places it can be used, especially in the raids. It definitely helps with raid damage, and that is way more beneficial than the 1 additional speed that you would get on that slice. I know it says 2, but if you look at the difference for what you would get as speed as a secondary stat on a different mod that you're slicing, you're really only getting 1 additional speed. I don't think that's worth it, unless, you know, if you have an arrow that has like 1.5% secondary offense percent, yeah, by all means, sure. That seems like a pretty good idea. You know, if you have some really awesome secondary stats that would be really beneficial for your team, that is where things would kind of start to sway me in that direction. But for the most part, I don't think people should be looking at speed primaries to be slicing to 6 dot. I think it's a waste for the most part. Well, thanks for checking out the video. I hope you found all of this information really beneficial and useful for helping you decide what mods you're actually going to slice first. I would like to take a second and thank our friends over at Blue Designs. Go bluedesigns.com and use the promo code SOPOD and you can get 20% off your order. They just released the Yeti Nano. This thing you can get for less than $100. It is absolutely awesome. I did a review. It's here on our YouTube channel. It sounds absolutely great if you want to get into making YouTube videos or doing a podcast or anything of the sort. If you're interested in a roster review, I do those also, patreon.com/shadowtoorder. I've got some lined up here pretty soon where we're going to go over mods and help people decide what mods to actually slice, set up some loadouts, just go over the roster in general. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. So if you're interested, check that out, because our Patreons are the only people that have access to every roster review we do. One of the roster reviews that I have coming up will get posted likely here to our YouTube channel, so make sure you check that out. And you can find the podcast on iTunes or any other podcatcher. Search Shadow or Podcast. We do a podcast every week. We also do Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes trivia, which we now post on our YouTube channel as well. So make sure you check out all that. Discord.me/ShadowToOrder if you want to come chat with us and join the conversation. And leave your thoughts in the comments and let me know what you think. Later.